Excuse me, do you know why we pulled you over today? Exactly, it's because you're not subscribed. So you better fix that right now, or we're gonna have to take you in. There's more. Because we were talking about the redesigned MacBook Air coming this year, featuring a larger 13.6-inch display, which is absolutely mental. I mean, I personally, I really love the MacBook Air because it's just something that you can use, for example, in bed or on the couch or just for chill stuff, right? Like, you want to have a MacBook Pro, the one that I have here, for work and stuff like that, and then you just want to close the lid and leave everything on there, relax, chill, get on the couch, and start working on, I don't know, chilling, relaxing, watching some streams, watching some videos. I don't know, it's just some time for yourself, and I feel like this MacBook is perfect for that. And even getting some shit done, right? Some short video editing sessions. You could even load up some games if you want to. It's crazy, it's good, it's really good, and yeah, I definitely enjoy using it. So let's get into what's going to happen with it. Let's go!
Report: redesigned MacBook Air coming this year to feature larger 13.6 display. Earlier this week, rumors emerged on the future of the MacBook Air, including the possibility of a new 15-inch model coming in 2023. Now, reliable analyst Ross Young has taken to Twitter to share more exact details on what to expect, with the changes starting as soon as this year. According to Young, who is the co-founder CEO of Display Supply Chain Consultants, the redesigned MacBook Air coming later this year will feature a slightly larger display thanks to that redesign. Currently, the MacBook Air features a 13.3-inch display, but the new model coming this year will reportedly feature a 13.6-inch panel. This increase in display size, albeit minor, is likely made possible by Apple reducing the size of the bezels around the display. This means the company can squeeze that larger display into the same overall form factor of the existing MacBook Air.
The bezels. Yeah, no, that's definitely it, right? Because, like, obviously they're not going to make the chassis any bigger because it has to be the normal Air. But Ross Young in the building. Yeah. MacBook Air. This is going to be hard. It is going to be hard, right? I feel like the MacBook Air is one of the most important Mac products in the Apple world, right? It's a very important product for Apple. Now, I'm not sure if it sells that well. As for example, the MacBook Pro, right? The entry-level MacBook Pro. I feel like a lot of people want that MacBook Pro aesthetic. But students might be very interested in the MacBook Air. But definitely for sustained performance, I feel like the MacBook Pro is just something that you probably want to get into. The reason why I think the MacBook Air is so important for Apple is because that is the product that most people just either think of the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air if you say Mac, right? Maybe the iMac, but they certainly do not think about like a cheese grater Mac. Or I don't know, the Mac Studio. Obviously, that's a newer product, so it's kind of hard to compare that. But of the older products, I feel like the MacBook or the Mac Mini, for example, is also not something It's not something that pops up in people's head. The normal consumers, right? Not us, but the normal consumers. I feel like if you say Mac, they usually think about a laptop. And that's why the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air are so important for Apple. And I feel like these are maybe they don't even sell as well as the Mac Mini, right? Because like it has the same chip, so a lot of people might go for the Mac Mini. But I would say that it is definitely the image of Mac. It is the face of Mac. It's the selling face of the Mac. And it's because you see it everywhere, right? You see it in the Starbucks, you see it in the train, you see it everywhere, that Apple logo. So a lot of people will encounter that Mac way more than a Mac Mini, a Mac Pro, a Mac Studio, right? Apart from if you are in some sort of professional studio. especially for the Studio Mac and the Pro Mac. You will probably encounter those other Macs more as well, but I would say, yeah, maybe in hotels you might see the iMac a lot, right? Because a lot of these excuse me, the reception, for example, they have these iMacs. A lot of these hotels have them. Casinos have them as well. So maybe the iMac is quite iconic as well. But yeah, I feel like those three Macs might be the face of Mac, actually. I'm not sure. Like, this is it's very interesting to realize that Apple has a lot of Macs, but the ones you see the most are actually three of them. At least if you ask me. But yeah, I just basically just really enjoy using the Mac and or the MacBook Air, and I feel like for a lot of people it's the perfect Mac. It's literally the perfect Mac. It's the Mac that I recommend to most people. If they ask me like what Mac should I get, it's the MacBook Air, especially the M1. Because it already has a display. You can attach a new display to it if you want to. It already has a keyboard. It's everything that you need. And especially if you get it refurbished from Apple itself, you can get Apple Care Plus. It's basically as new, and you basically do not have any problems. So yeah, I feel like these are the face of Mac, and they are also very cheap. Do whatever you need them to do. For most users, it's perfect. I would say it's one of the most important and perfect Macs that Apple sells. It's literally perfect, and nothing in its price category can get close to that performance. Like, the M1 is so insane. It shreds everything in that price category, which is not as true for the Mac Studio, right? So the Mac Studio is powerful, but for 4,000 euros, 4,500 euros actually, if you include taxes, you won't be able to build a decent PC that will definitely have similar performance, if not exceeding the performance, right? Depending on what you're doing. So it's kind of like a different category and different caliber of users that are using it. Probably the people that are using the Mac Studio are very heavily embedded into the Final Cut Pro universe, the Logic Pro universe, and they specifically have to have the power of a custom built PC for 4,000 euros in a Mac because they use those apps. Whilst other people that are not using those apps, they can just build their own computer and be fine with it. But that's not true for the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air is such a special product in its category. There's nothing that comes close to that performance for that price. I feel like the MacBook Air, especially for students, is about $899. For $899, you're not going to get a laptop with that performance in it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not even going to get close. Because the cooling solutions that most of these computers need for that performance are already too expensive. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Like, I feel like the Razer has a similar build structure and something close to obviously full aluminum body design. They have this Razer Book, but it's not even close to the performance of an M1 MacBook Air, let alone an entry-level MacBook Pro, right? So it's not working. There's nothing in that category that comes close to it, and that makes it a very special Mac. I feel like that is not something that has happened quite a lot before. Like, the previous MacBook Air was actually not really a good deal, if you ask me. And that is coming from the man who has a MacBook Retina 2016 that is still running like a beast right here. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of mental anyways.
This means the company can squeeze that larger display into the same overall form factor of the existing MacBook Air. It's essentially the same strategy we've seen Apple take with the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro redesigns. Meanwhile, Young says that the 15-inch MacBook Air coming in 2023 will feature a 15.2-inch display. This is smaller than the previous 15.4-inch panel Apple used to put in the MacBook Pro. One interesting tidbit of the MacBook Air redesign that remains unclear is whether or not the machine will feature a notch. similar to the new MacBook Pro models. Some leakers have said that MacBook Air will feature a notch and white bezels, merging the design languages of the MacBook Pro and 24-inch iMac. Another wrinkle to this story, Ming-Chi Kuo predicted on Thursday that the new 15-inch MacBook Air might not actually be called the MacBook Air. Instead, Kuo speculated that it could just be the MacBook and arrive in late 2023. 9to5Mac has also heard from independent sources that Apple has been working on at least 2 different versions of the MacBook Air for 2023. We've mocked up what the next generation MacBook Air might look like right here. What do you think of the future of the MacBook Air lineup? Let us know down in the comments. Read more. Report, new 15-inch MacBook coming in late 2023, might not be called Air.
Okay, I was distracted with chat. You guys are out of control. You focus, fam. We are here for apple juice. Oh my god, this is so stupid. Anyways, yeah. To get back on Miski's original comment. The 0.3 inch increase in screen is actually something that you do notice, to be honest. And I'm just gonna, so if you look at the MacBook Pro 15 inch that went to 16 inch, obviously that's a whole inch, right? But it is something that you notice. It's something that you feel. It was the same with the iPad Pro that got that new design. Especially in combination with that new design, you do feel that difference. You do feel like you get more display. For example, the 16-inch that I'm using right now, I've used the previous 16-inch, and maybe it's the combination of less bezels, right? But it just feels like you get more, and that, for some people that's enough, right? You just have to feel like it's more, and you're in. But like, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just saying that it for a lot of people it just does give that feeling, and that's just enough. If it gives that feeling, it's enough, right? Others might say, no, I actually need more screen real estate, and then obviously for the likes of you, we have more. We absolutely have more, ladies and gentlemen. Introducing the new 15-inch MacBook Flicking Pro Air. But it might not be called Air, so I might be semi-right. Semi-right, semi-not right, I'm not sure. We're going to get into it. This is the MacBook Air, or MacBook 15-inch. Let's go.
Report, new 15-inch MacBook coming in late 2023, might not be called Air. Earlier this week, a new report from Display Supply Chain Consultants (DSCC) revealed that Apple has been working on a new MacBook Air with a 15-inch display to be introduced sometime next year. Now analyst Ming-Chi Kuo claims that this new MacBook will be released in late 2023, but it might not be called Air. On his Twitter account, Kuo says that mass production of the new 15-inch MacBook will begin in the fourth quarter of 2023, indicating a release later in the year if all goes to plan. Although details about this machine are unknown. The analyst says that the new laptop will use the same 30W power adapter as the current MacBook Air despite the larger display. Interestingly enough, Ming-Chi Kuo believes that this new MacBook won't be called MacBook Air, contrary to what DSCC mentioned in its report.
Yeah, I mean, it's so obviously, right? Because like a MacBook Air has some characteristics to it. It's small, it's light, it's literally called Air. It's called Air for a reason. It's not called Air because it's heavy and big. So it kind of makes sense that it's not going to be called the Air. Right, maybe it's just going to be called MacBook Retina or MacBook 15-inch or whatever, or just a MacBook. I would say that a lot of people are waiting for a 15-inch. Obviously, like 15-inch. Now that's what I'm talking about, exactly. I mean, to be honest, right? So a lot of people might be waiting for this, but to release this under the Air flag might not make too much sense. But anyways, I would agree with Minchikuo here. So let's go.
DSCC said that Apple plans to slightly increase the size of the entry-level MacBook Air display and also introduce a significantly larger second model. 9 to 5 Mac has also heard from independent sources that Apple has been working on at least 2 different versions of the MacBook Air for 2023. However, the 2022 model, which is expected to bring the M2 chip and a brand new design, will be introduced with a single size option. Our sources also revealed earlier this month that Apple has considered dropping the Pro name from the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is also expected to get an upgrade this year with the M2 chip.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for Apple to just drop the Pro in the entry level, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of people that like the Pro status, but do not really want the consequences. Yeah, kind of like Thanos, right? Some people actually liked the kind of solution that Thanos was advocating for, but they do not like the consequences of those problems, right? Of the solution. So that's why it won't ever happen. But it is a solution to the problem that we currently have. Just saying that, obviously nobody wants it, including me. I do not want that solution for the problem that we have. It is a solution for the problem that we have. And Thanos snapping the bezels away is something that we do want. I'm not sure if we want to Thanos snap the MacBook Pro line, the entry-level MacBook Pro line away, because strictly revenue, looking at the revenue, I feel like a lot of people are making that upgrade strictly for the name, right? Because what is the difference between the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air? It's resolution, some nits brightness, and a fan. I mean, is that worthy of the Pro naming? I'm not completely sure. Maybe it is, but it does make me feel like this is basically built for the people that like the aesthetic, right? But do not want to pay a shit ton of money to get into the that aesthetic. So I would say, although it does make sense naming wise to just drop the Pro name and just have an Air and then 2 MacBook models that are just going to be there, a 13-inch with a fan and a 15-inch also with a fan. I'm not sure how they're... Because otherwise you have a 15-inch MacBook Air, basically, without a fan. I'm not sure if someone needs that screen real estate without actually needing sustained performance of, like, a Pro. Which, I mean, counters my entire previous argument of, like, what the difference is between the Air and the Pro. Because it's not really the fan, it's the sustained performance. So, I mean, I'm just countering myself here, which is awesome. I'm having a conversation with myself right now, which is great. Live. International television right here. At least I'm not slapping my colleague in the face. On live television. I'm not gonna get into that. Fuck the Oscars, dude. I literally do not give a fuck. Anyways, this is just interesting. I feel like this is crazy. This is crazy news, and I just can't wait to see this happening because, yeah, it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense to have a 15-inch for consumers, right? It makes sense because of the amount of people that really want this, that really want to have a bigger screen, do not want to pay a shit ton of money for it, also do not care about mini LED, just want an LCD relaxed display that they can work with and type with. But yeah, I'm just not sure about them not needing sustained performance. Maybe the M2 is efficient enough that with a chassis that big, it can deliver sustained performance without a fan. I don't know, dude. Like, the M2 is probably going to be crazy, but is it going to be that crazy that it can deliver sustained peak performance? With like the other without a fan? That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. Anyways, I feel like the M2 is definitely going to be more efficient, right? Because it's a 4 nanometer process. So unless that's just marketing this time, I feel like it should help with efficiency, and the chassis is bigger in like a 15-inch Air, if it is even going to be called an Air. Let's just assume it's an Air. 15-inch, bigger chassis, more efficient chip. It might be able to cool that chip in such a way that it does cool it down good enough. But right now, I am not too convinced about it. I'm just not too convinced. It's kind of, yeah. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see what happens. M2, let's go. Yeah, let's go. They can call it the MacBook Retina and the Big MacBook Retina. Yeah. You guys with your fucking Big Mac, dude. I feel like you guys just want this stream to get copyright struck. That's literally your guys' plan right here. Anyways, let's move on to the next topic, because we have been sitting here on the MacBook Air for a really long time.